and welcome to Sports Talk Weekly. It's good to be back. I had to take a little bit of a hiatus last week, but it's good to be back on the show. And I'm joined by Craig Kellerman tonight, who took over for me last week. Craig, thanks for taking over last week. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. How are you doing, Chris?
I'm doing pretty spectacular. I had a really good last weekend, and I got back and I had to work kind of late, so I didn't make it in time for the show. But good to get back into the swing of things, and it'll be nice to get back on Saturdays with the show. So we got a lot to talk about tonight, so we're going to get into it. We're going to start off with some sad news. The Buffalo Bills owner, Ralph Wilson, died today at 95 years old. He was the founder and the owner of the team. He owned the team for 54 years, and he was the last of the original AFL owners.
He looks pretty good for his age, too. I mean, considering,
95 years. That's insane. One of the longest tenured owners in the league. That's sad. Thoughts and prayers to his family.
It's sad, but he lived a long and illustrious life.
Yeah, I'm sure he's gonna kick it on the other side. Yeah, but
you know what killed him?
What?
The sad performance of the Bills in the last 10 years.
I would have said, maybe he could have gone with he should have gone after the 4th Super Bowl loss. I don't know, but God, we're awful. It's fine. Yeah. It's okay to be funny. All right.
He bought the franchise for $25,000 in 1960. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great.
Man, imagine I could almost afford that now.
I know. Just buy an NFL team for cheap, and in 50 years it'll be worth millions and millions and millions of dollars. That's the plan. Let's do that. I feel like starting a league would be even more money making. But that didn't work out for Vince McMahon, so it doesn't work out for everybody.
Well, he had money to play with, so he said,
yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I'm just jumping out of this XFL thing.
Why not? All right. Staying on the NFL topic, a new rule was made in the last 48 hours. NFL officials this year are going to flag players who dunk the ball over the goalpost.
Oh, showboating kind of thing?
Yeah, it's like a taunting penalty.
But isn't that a thing they do in Green Bay a lot?
Well, they have the Lambeau Leap is their signature thing they do. But I think the main player who's famous for doing this is Jimmy Graham, the Saints tight end. Loves to dunk the ball over the goal. A lot of tight ends in the NFL are actually former basketball players. So they like to dunk the ball over the goalpost. And
something they can't break out of.
Yeah. I feel like it's a silly thing to go out of your way to make a rule for. If it falls under taunting, that's fine. But I don't get why people get all blown up and upset about it. It's not a big deal. It doesn't affect the play on the field, so I don't see why people would get too upset about it. But if you disagree and if you have an opinion on the rule change, give us a call at 760-512-7247. We'd love to hear your thoughts. But, I don't know. I don't think it's too big of a deal. It's worth noting for sure. But,
it's not like breakdancing and doing the
right.
Suck It thing when you're,
pulling a Brandon Jacobs and spiking the ball up against the scoreboard when you score a touchdown.
Spiking it over a fan's head or something.
Right.
So what's the penalty for it now? Is it a fine or what?
It's probably a 5 or 10 yard 5 to 15 yard penalty on the kickoff is usually what it is, because it would be right after a score. They would dunk over the goalpost, so it's always going to be attached to the kickoff. I'm assuming it's 5 to 15 yards. 5 seems like it's probably the most reasonable since it's a small thing, but I don't know where taunting falls under. It's coupled with taunting, so.
I feel like in the last couple of seasons, they've just been trying to make new rules all the time.
It's Roger Goodell has a thing for he's trying to mold the league in his image. So he wants to change a lot of things around, even if they're small changes. It's he wants to get his hands on everything. He wants to touch everything.
He's like the NFL god.
Yeah, honestly, yeah. That's a lot of people's problem is all these little things over time. It just it takes its toll on people. They think that Goodell is just trying to change too much about the league. He's trying to change extra points and kickoffs and the way you're allowed to hit and etc. So
yeah. Well, I understand the hitting thing because maybe
I do too.
Yeah.
I think people overreact about that. Concussions are a serious thing and absolutely important.
For sure, yeah.
On the other side of that, going after the knees isn't any better. A lot of football players will tell you they'd rather have their legs and be a little dizzy in the head.
You're going to end up with the season with like six or seven string people.
Yeah. It's a nightmare. There were so many injuries the last couple of years since they changed that rule.
Yeah.
We have some new faces in new places. Michael Vick is signed with the New York Jets, so he's going to be starting at quarterback for them this year, and Jets fans everywhere are probably thrilled to hear that. I honestly feel like this is a good thing to happen to Geno Smith because he was drafted by the Jets, and he was not supposed to start right away. He was a project quarterback who was going to sit on the bench, learn the playbook, and in a couple of years maybe he'd be ready to play. And Mark Sanchez got injured, and
Right.
Smith was thrust into the starting lineup, and he did his best with what he could, but he was very raw. He had a very poor season. I don't have to tell anybody that. Everybody who follows the NFL knows Geno Smith had a terrible season last year. 12 touchdowns, 21 interceptions. Awful season. But hopefully Michael Vick can get in there and stay healthy and, give the Jets the spark they need, give them some offensive firepower, make it so that signing Eric Decker wasn't a waste.
Yeah.
And and Geno can learn from Vic. That's a good person for him to learn from.
Man, throwing those stats out there, it's like throwing salt in the wound, man.
Oh yeah, that's so bad. Like 9 more interceptions than touchdowns. That's terrible.
Michael Vick, man, he'll definitely do work. But the thing is, he's so injury prone.
Mm-hmm. He really is.
That they're just going to throw Geno back in there mid-season.
Smith will start some game at some point next year because Vic won't play the whole season.
No.
But it's nice to have another option at quarterback. It's nice that they won't have to drastically change their playbook because they play the same way. Marty Morningwig is the former Eagles offensive coordinator, and that's who's there. So that's why Vic went there in the first place.
Right.
It was nice that they got Decker. There's also some rumors that he's trying to convince Deshaun Jackson to come to the Jets. They're trying to work out a trade.
That would make them a actually worthy team.
Their offense would significantly be upgraded with Decker and Jackson and Vic.
Oh my God, and Vic. Oh.
Yeah. I mean,
as much as I hate Vic, man.
Vic is not the same Michael Vick he was in 2004, but he is definitely better than Geno Smith. So
he's seasoned. He's seasoned. That's what they need. They need something. They just need to win a couple of games, man. They don't necessarily need to make the playoffs, but they need to be relevant again.
Having a veteran quarterback is definitely going to help out Geno Smith a lot, and it's a guy who can get the ball downfield. He can make plays with his legs. He makes the running game, the threat of Chris Ivory and Bilo Powell, even more of a threat because of his running ability. It's definitely an upgrade at quarterback for the Jets. It's definitely a positive signing, and it means that their other big signing in Eric Decker isn't going to go to waste. I mean, they're going to need all the help they can get to compete with the Patriots in that division, compete with the Broncos in the conference.
I think the Jets are the team where you go to die when you're in the NFL.
Yeah, they got some. Maybe they need to worry about just placing second in the AFC East before they worry about taking down the Broncos and the Patriots. But hey, little baby steppies, and these moves are positive moves in the right direction, so that's good for them. The other quarterback to switch teams, the Houston Texans traded Matt Schaub to the Oakland Raiders for an undisclosed late-round draft choice. Schaub was a consistently really good quarterback before last season.
Yeah.
He's 32, I believe. He had the worst season of his career last year, but, I mean, he was on the worst team in the NFL. So you've got to look at that. I don't think he's a long-term answer for the Raiders. I'm not even sure he's a good short-term answer for the Raiders because what do they have there? They let their 2 best free agents go.
Yep.
They did not even make an effort to sign either of them. They gave Darren McFadden a 1-year deal. They're trying to not let that be a bust. They're trying to make that work out.
Yeah.
They're not going to draft a quarterback now because they're invested in Matt Schaub this year. Think about this. Okay, I was looking at this earlier. Matt Schaub threw, for people who say Schaub didn't play that many games last year. Okay, Schaub threw 3 more passes than Jay Cutler did last year. Only 3.
Right.
But he threw for 300 less yards, 9 less touchdowns, and 2 more interceptions. Granted, Jeffrey and Marshall are better than Andre Johnson and DeAndre Hopkins, but they're not that much better where they make up that difference in like 9 less touchdowns. The Texans were a mess with Shaw and with Keenum at quarterback. They couldn't get anything going.
I know.
They absolutely have a huge quarterback need, and dumping Shaw doesn't hurt them at all. He wasn't their guy anymore. He has a chance to resurrect his career if he somehow got the Raiders, to a good record and had a good season. He could become back player of the year next year. This guy led the league in passing like less than 5 years ago.
I know. It's incredible to see the shipwreck that is Matt Schwab. The thing is like he threw way too many picks. I think he just screwed up right in the beginning, and then and it seems like that's how it works in the NFL. Like if you fuck up early, like that's how your season's just gonna go.
He got that streak going where he was just pick six, and it mentally shredded him. He had never shown any history of being an inaccurate or a poor decision maker. He just got rattled. It is so easy to have your mentality crushed in the NFL. He had just pick 6 one game, pick 6 the next game. After 4 or 5 games, it's going to take your toll on you. People are talking. You're reading it on the internet. You're hearing it, and you're hearing it on ESPN every time you turn on your TV in the morning and drink your coffee. Like this guy is just surrounded by what is Matt Schaub doing? What is Matt Schaub doing? Remember the Houston Texans were in the AFC Championship game a few years ago, and they went from that to picking number 1 in the draft this year because they were so bad. Like, I just feel for Shaw. He got mentally destroyed. A change of pace is probably going to be good for him, but it's Oakland. That's not good for him. I think right now the Raiders, the way their offseason has gone, they're competing for the number 1 pick in next year's draft, it seems like. Because they're not making any effort to make their team better this year. They let their best free agents go. They didn't make an effort to really sign anyone. They signed another wide receiver, but if he couldn't put up numbers with Johnson and Hopkins, how's he going to put up numbers with James Jones and Zanarius Moore? I don't know.
Well, the thing is, man, if they did pick up good, they have a decent defense for a while. I mean, there was a lot of they didn't get a lot of yards past their defense. It's just their offense was just crumbled all the time, and the fact that they kept throwing picks that's how all these teams are scoring on them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I think weren't both of their wins against the same team. I thought was both of their wins against Jacksonville, or was both of Jacksonville's wins against Houston? I don't remember. It was one or the other. But like that just says something right there how poor those teams were last year. I stand by the fact that I think the Jags have the least talent in the NFL, not the Texans. The Texans just had some bad luck.
Slightly better. Texans are a decent team. They're not they'll do okay. Definitely better than Oakland, and I think.
Yeah, and Jacksonville. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Jacksonville's like the worst team ever.
Houston's got enough talent in place still that they're fine. They need to have Cushing need to come back healthy. They need to nail this draft. They'll probably be fine.
Yeah, it's bad when you're like, oh, the Jets have a chance, and they're up on the drafts and everything.
Now, this is the thing. Houston is in a position where they're saying they think this is a very deep draft for quarterbacks. Yeah. And they're not sure if they want to use their top pick on a quarterback when Jadeveon Clowney is the consensus best player available. But when you're in a position like Houston is, and your glaring need is quarterback, and you've got J.J. Watt sitting there on your defensive line, and you don't really need Jadeveon Clowney. Like, it'd be nice to pair them together, but you desperately need a quarterback, and you're not going to get to pick number 1 again for a long time. So why not just fucking go for it? Take the best quarterback available. The franchise quarterback is the most important position in all of sports. If you don't have a good quarterback, you don't well. So they need a quarterback. It is not Keenum. It is not Ryan Fitzpatrick. The coach immediately came out with a no confidence vote on that guy. Like right away. He said, we need a quarterback right away. He said, I don't know if we're going to use the first round pick on one, but we need a quarterback. And he's in love with Blake Bortles.
And he's sitting there and he's like, hey, I'm sitting right here.
Yeah. They played UCF last year.
Yeah.
They did. And Bortles carved them up and led this like huge comeback against them. And I mean, O'Brien is a huge fan of Bortles. So Bortles seems to be like the quarterback that has the most upside and the one that everybody's the highest on. I wouldn't be shocked if Houston went with him with the number 1 pick. I can see Clowney slipping to like 3 to Jacksonville unless they desperately go for the quarterback. I can't see Houston passing on a quarterback when it's such a glaring need for them, and it's so important to get a quarterback in the NFL. If anyone out there has an opinion on what they think Houston will do with the number 1 pick, or how they think Matt Schaub will fare with the Raiders, or Vic with the Jets, or anything else we've talked about, give us a call at 760-512-7247. Let us know your thoughts. Actually, we just got a caller in, so I'm going to go ahead and go to them right now. Caller from the 407 area code. How are you doing?
Good. I managed to make it on tonight.
Hey, how are you doing, Nick?
Busy, dude. Working 2 jobs hasn't been as easy.
Yeah? I know you had some thoughts on the NFL goalpost dunks being banned. I saw on Facebook earlier, so you want to give us your thoughts on that?
Yeah, but giving it some more thought, and I realize I don't know if it's as bad as people are making it out to be. I think it's just another excuse to show even more hate for Goodell. I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't enjoy him as commissioner, but I don't think this one might be as bad. Maybe they're just trying to cut down on bending goalposts. I mean, I'm sure there's a reason for everything, but at first when I read it, I thought, yeah, this is pathetic. But thinking back on it, is anyone even really going to care, like you said?
I mean, but don't you think it makes it a little bit more fun when they get to do things like that?
No, you're right.
Yeah.
They do. They do. I got to be honest with you. I really got to look more in depth of it. As of right now, I'm not sure because, like I said, I've been very exhausted working 2 jobs, so I haven't really had a chance to thoroughly look at it and think it through. It was just a quick rush through before I had to get back to work. So
I feel like it's a small thing, but it does go into that bigger picture of, why does Goodell have to put his hands on everything just because he's the commissioner? I think that's what really upsets people the most. It's not really the specific act of banning the goalpost dunk. Like, that's irrelevant in the grand scheme of things. We don't care too much. It's like, oh, come on, taking all the fun away. But, like, it doesn't really matter. The game's going to be the same either way. It's just a type of celebration that's no longer allowed. It's more of the why do you get all over everything kind of thing for Goodell.
Yeah, I mean, they do show it on the highlights, but in all honesty, it never really got as much attention except for when Jimmy Graham actually bends the goalpost. Other than that, they show it quickly on the highlights. They don't make a big deal about it at all, and they just move on. It was only when Graham bent the goalpost that it really got much attention at all.
Yeah, big deal. Make him pay for it. Like,
yeah,
he can afford it
anyway. Cheers.
Do you have any other thoughts on anything else we've talked about so far, Nick?
I just tuned in, so I'm not sure what you guys have gone over so far.
We were talking about Michael Vick's role with the Jets this year, like whether that's a good thing for Geno Smith. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I don't know if Geno's really going to feel whether it's a challenge or if Michael Vick is there just to really mentor him.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I
think. Well, he's definitely.
I think they're going to commit to Geno Smith.
Mm-hmm.
Because he is still in his second year, so it looks like they're committed to him long term.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe Vic might add a little extra motivation. Maybe Geno might see him as a challenge, or Vic could be there just to personally mentor Geno and get him NFL ready.
One thing I had thought about was Geno Smith's personality in particular. He seems like kind of a baby. He's still a little immature. He got really pouty when he didn't get drafted that high in the draft. He fired his agent because of it. He's got a really bad attitude, it seems. He had some times he showed like he was maturing, but it reminds me a lot of Cam Newton when he came out. He was really immature, and it took him a couple years to get over it. But I don't know if bringing in Vic just to push Geno will work with Geno's personality, because I feel like Geno will just react negatively to it. It's like, this guy's here to take my job, and then I think like play worse. I feel like keeping him on the bench. Vic's clearly the better player right now. Keeping Geno on the bench, letting him mature, letting him learn the ropes from Michael, and and maybe he was supposed to be a project anyway. So giving him 2 years, on the bench to just learn and maybe get a chance to, your fourth year to starting at quarterback is by no means long. It's no means a long time to wait. It took Rodgers, longer than that before he started.
Right.
And I mean, it's better because if you are forcing yourself, if you're forcing yourself to play when you're not ready and you're not just going to work in the league, then he's just gonna crush his confidence, and he's gonna play poorly, and other teams won't want to give him a chance, and he'll be out of the league before you know it. So, for his benefit, it's actually better for him, in my opinion, to sit on the bench and just, let Vic be the quarterback for right now. It's also better for the Jets' short-term success. Like, if they want to try to make the playoffs this year, which they were very close to doing last year, Vic has a better chance of getting them there than Geno does. They actually got him a receiver. If this thing with Deshaun Jackson works out, they got him 2 receivers. They didn't have any last year. So just, yeah, there's like rumors that the Jets are trying to. The Eagles put Deshaun Jackson on the trading block. The Jets are one of the teams that are trying to get him because of Vic and Morningweg being in New York. So.
And Deshaun Jackson would be a great fit for Vic because they already know how to work together. Mm-hmm. And Deshaun Jackson, he's a really fast player. I mean, he'll run down the field you can't catch him.
He's so good. He's probably the fastest wide receiver in the NFL.
Yeah.
He lacks some other things. He lacks
Geno's attitude.
Size. Yeah.
You think this could also be a move to possibly help humble Geno, kind of get him to mature a little sooner?
It could. I hope it goes in that positive direction instead of just like destroying the guy, because I don't know, he may be one of those guys who just has a sensitive ego. I don't know. It was a gamble for whoever took Geno in the first place, and it didn't help any matters that New York City, of all places, is where Geno had to go, because that is the worst place for a soft personality person to go to like that.
Well, come on. I mean, you're starting off in the NFL. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, as this is your first time being a quarterback and you're starting. You know what I mean? Like, he played most of the games.
Yeah, exactly.
I remembered. I think he actually started all the games for the Jets last year, unless he got injured for any of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sanchez started week 1.
Sanchez got hurt in the preseason, right?
Yep. Geno started every game.
He never played
last year.
Damn.
Yeah. Sanchez never played.
What's going to happen with Sanchez?
He's actually going to sign with the Eagles, ironically.
As what, though?
Yeah.
Nick Foles backup.
Oh, jeez.
It brings me back to the New York thing, to when LeBron was a free agent a few years ago. And, people were talking about, like, go to New York City, go to New York City. It's like, stay away from New York, LeBron. Mm-hmm. You don't need that drama. Stay away from New York City. And he was smart. He went to Miami. No, we're not going to deal with that. New York fans are mean.
Yeah. Coming from New York,
I mean,
I'm a New Yorker.
How that is, yeah.
Yeah. Like,
yes.
Oh my God.
And they were calling him the chicken, the quitter too, and like he didn't really impact them as he did with Cleveland when he left. And yet Knicks fans still took it personal. Like, I remember seeing LeBron Knicks jerseys when he was still signed as a Cavalier. Like, he wasn't even a free agent. So they were really convinced.
I think it's the East Coast. Like if you ever go to like Yankees Red Sox games, those fans, when those two teams get together, are like just so rowdy. Like it's the craziest thing. Like you're in the stadium, you can't hear yourself think. It's crazy. It's that intense.
Red Sox. It could be Yankees Red Sox, Yankees Mets, Phillies Mets.
Yeah.
Phillies, Red Sox, you're going to get that same atmosphere every time. And you're always going to have extra security and police on call because the fights get violent.
Oh, yeah, they do.
It was...
I saw, in 2004, I saw a guy get beaten senseless by a group of other fans because of the jersey he wore.
Yeah.
And because those guys were so drunk that all they wanted to do was bicker and moan. Eventually, they sucker punched him in the bathroom, dragged him out, and a whole bunch of guys just beat him senseless.
Oh, that's awful.
Yeah. I mean, sports are supposed to be enjoyable, and some people take it way too seriously. It's really sad when that happens.
Look what happened to that Giants fan, Brian Stowe, the paramedic.
Mm-hmm.
When he was beaten outside Dodger Stadium and left in a coma, I believe he's permanently paralyzed.
Oh, man.
Awful. Just disgusting that some people act that way. I've heard stories of fans from other teams, like the Baltimore Ravens fans particularly, are really bad but I mean, to be fair, you could probably chalk that up to just being Baltimore in general. Sorry if anyone in Baltimore is listening. Baltimore's a horrible place. The epitome of the hood. It's just really bad.
Seattle fans are really loud too.
They're loud, but they're loud in a positive way.
Yeah.
They're not like, I'm going to beat the crap out of you. They're just like loud, and they love their team, and they retired the number 12 for the 12th man. That's how much they support their team. So I figure that in like a positive light. So you know how we can't like go one show without talking about the Super Bowl? Well, I wanted to point out Seattle might get Jared Allen, and that would be really good for their rotation. But with all the moves Denver made, picking up Aqib Talib from New England, which was huge, picking up DeMarcus Ware from Dallas, which was huge.
Yeah.
If they can re-sign Sean Phillips and have a rotation of Ware, Von Miller, and Sean Phillips, they are going to have a very fresh, good outside linebacker core. Denver will actually have a pass rush and a legitimate number one defensive back because they let Cromartie go. Talib is a huge upgrade. Talib is incredibly underrated. He played so well for New England last year. And then they picked up Emmanuel Sanders from the Steelers to replace Decker, which almost might be an upgrade in my opinion. Sanders was kind of underutilized in Pittsburgh because of how much Ben loved Antonio Brown. And I feel like Peyton Manning is really going to use Sanders. His numbers are probably going to spike up a lot. So if any of you play fantasy football out there, keep an eye on them. That's a sleeper, Emmanuel Sanders for the Broncos.
Yeah.
And then they let Moreno go. They might bring him back in a reserve role to like help out with the blocking and stuff. But Monty Ball, they think is ready. They moved him up to number 1 on the depth chart. The Broncos are a scary team next year. Elway's going all in, and he's breaking the bank to try to get the championship before Manning retires. So
did you say Elway?
Yeah, Elway's the owner or the general manager of the Broncos.
Oh yeah, that's right.
He's breaking
president and general manager all in one.
Yeah. So he's breaking the bank to try to get that championship.
Going back to Seattle, that would be they lost 2 defensive linemen on the offseason, both to the same team. That would be a nice improvement to kind of fill the void left by Red Bryant and Chris Clemens' departures.
If Jared Allen can get in this is why negotiations are a thing. Allen's pride is getting in the way. He really wants to be paid exactly what he thinks he's worth. And he wants to play for a good team. And the problem is the really good teams where he can win can't afford to pay him what he wants. They need, like Seattle, for example, needs to save their money to be able to redo Russell Wilson and Richard Sherman's contracts. And unfortunately, Jared, those 2 are more important to the Seahawks than you. So, you've got to be willing to take some less money. That's why Minnesota didn't re-sign him. He wanted too much money. He needs to be willing to accept that in Seattle, at least, he would be in a rotational role. He would get a lot of playing time. It does not mean he would not, he would not start or he would not be played or whatever. He would be barely utilized. He would get tons of playing time, even if he wasn't necessarily a starter. He'd still make a decent amount of money every year, and he would be on a very good team and have a very good chance to win a championship. This is Seattle's.
Right.
If Seattle's going to repeat, or if Seattle's going to win another ring with the group they have, is the only year they can do it because they're going to start losing people when they have to re-sign Wilson and Sherman. Sherman is going to get a crap ton because of what Revis and Nnamdi and all those other top corners set the market at. So Sherman is going to get paid. So unfortunately for Seattle, that means they're going to lose some more people next year. So
yeah, they weren't ever going to be set up to be like a dynasty or anything. I mean, last season was probably going to be one of their like star seasons.
The way the NFL works with the salary cap now, you can't even really have a dynasty anymore because the players that want to get paid, they'll opt out of their deals and they'll try to become free agents right after the Super Bowl so they can make a lot more money. And the way the salary cap is now, it's just impossible to keep a team together for that long. Like New England was the last team that was really able to do it. You really have to have ungreedy players who don't care about money that are willing to take so much less than they're actually worth to stay on the same team and keep winning. And then you have to even factor in the fact that there's like parity in the NFL. Like they may not win anyway, even if they have the best team. So like the risk reward isn't there for the players, and they can just go to another good team and make a lot of money. Like Ware just signed on with Denver because he has a good chance to win a ring, and he made a good amount of money, and he's happy. Like, you could just jump on whatever good team is willing to pay you, and
that sucks too, man. Like, it shouldn't be about the money, but it is.
It is. It's about the money and the winning. Like, he went to a good team that paid him, at least. He went to Denver. He wanted to win. Like, Dallas cut ties with him. It wasn't the other way around.
Yeah.
With the Jared Allen thing, I think this is his, last chance to win a championship. If he doesn't go with Seattle now, he's not going to win one, and that's a big deal with your... Like, he's going to go to the Hall of Fame anyway, but a ring would help him be, a first-ballot Hall of Famer.
Right.
So it would be intelligent of him to try to win one with Seattle instead of just accepting that and just being bitter and just retiring. And, I don't think that's the way he wants to go out. I don't want to see him go out that way. I want to see him try to play for...
No, he's a really good player. And he did a lot for the Vikings. It's a shame.
He was a fantastic player for us for his entire career with Minnesota. He even had a good season this year, but it was one of those situations where it was like, we are a rebuilding team. We have a new head coach. We have a new offense. We have an entire new staff. We're rebuilding our entire defense. The only people we really kept are our cornerstone young guys like Greenway, Harrison Smith, Xavier Rhodes. We re-signed Everson Griffin to a big contract because he's our young, talented defensive end. And Jared wanted to play on a team where he could win, and he wanted a lot more guaranteed money from Minnesota if he stayed there. But we weren't willing to pay him. And clearly, the market has shown he isn't worth what he thought he was. So it's a good thing we didn't overpay our aging defensive end to stay, just because we like him. It doesn't work that way. The smart teams don't do that.
Were there I got a question. Were there any free agent signings that actually surprised you? That you're like, whoa, I can't believe he went there.
Like player A went to team A or whatever. Let me think. I'm a little surprised. I don't have a player that I'm surprised went to a team. I'm surprised Noshawn Moreno doesn't have a team yet. He ran for 1,100 yards last year and 13 touchdowns. He had a great, finally had a really good season for the Broncos and finally lived up to his hype. And they released him because they invested in Monty Ball, and he's still sitting there. And it seems like the Dolphins are desperately in need of a running back and haven't picked him up. And it's a foregone conclusion a week ago that the Dolphins were going to sign Moreno, and it just didn't happen. And now the Broncos are talking about bringing him in to be a backup, and he's willing to accept it. And it's what's wrong with him? There's got to be something. There's got to be something.
Dolphins aren't that bad.
Jesus. Yeah, I'd rather be a backup with Peyton Manning than be starting on the Dolphins. Sorry.
Yo, good Tannehill sitting there shaking his head.
Smart guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, what? I don't get what's wrong with Moreno. It's got to be something.
No, I see your point. What about anyone else? Anybody else surprised by any certain signing?
Here's a thing that did kind of surprise me. I didn't even, because I didn't hear about it until a couple days ago, but it happened a while back apparently. Ben Tate, the Texans' backup running back, signed on with the Browns. He's going to be the starter apparently, which is kind of cool.
Browns need it.
Yeah, that's a good fit for him. I think he'll probably do really well in Cleveland.
Depends how many coaches they go through this season.
3. And this season, just this. No. Yeah, we're pretty sure at the end of the year they'll just be firing whoever they hired as their coach this year. Don't even buy a house in Cleveland, man. You know you're not going to stay. Don't even buy a house there.
Yeah, you're better off just renting a hotel room for the season.
You don't want to live in Cleveland anyway. Yeah.
They should just change the name to the Cleveland Steamers.
Craig, did you have a player that you were surprised signed with a certain team?
I was honestly surprised that Vic went. Actually, kind of not. Kind of yes, kind of no. But I thought Vic would go somewhere else. Honestly, I didn't think he would come to New York. Yeah.
For him. I actually thought Minnesota from the beginning until we re-signed Castle.
Yeah.
Oh, you re-signed him?
Yeah, I'm actually fine with that. I think more than likely Minnesota's going to draft a defensive player with the 8th pick. I think they're afraid to reach for a quarterback after the Ponder situation.
Right.
Spielman can't really afford to. And we need to rebuild our defense anyway. Getting a pass rushing linebacker at 8, which there's a couple that perfectly fit in that area. Anthony Barr, Khalil Mack. There's some really good players that just happen to be a big need of ours that just sit right there. And having like Greenway on one side and Barr or Mack on the other would be really good. And I think that I think Castle can handle the load this year. I think that he played well for us last year. He's the only quarterback who won any games for the Vikings last season. He fits. He's a good indoor quarterback. He has big hands. That actually helps a lot. I think he'll get a rapport with the offense. Patterson came on at the end of the year. Castle seemed like he was starting to get it. Norv Turner is going to implement the offense, and I think that him and Castle are going to work together really well. And Castle's a short-term Band-Aid. I don't think he's like a long-term answer. We still need a quarterback of the future, but I'm good with
Question for you again. Do you think playing in the outdoor stadium this coming season is going to have any effect, or are most of the players there probably used to the cold anyway?
It's nice that we have a run-first mentality with Adrian Peterson, so I think the cold will be fine for us. It's like, just because we play in a dome doesn't mean we're not capable of playing in the cold. We like Green Bay and Chicago every year. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fine. I don't think they have a problem with it. I'm so excited for the new stadium in a couple of years. It's going to be great. I want to go to the open game really bad. I'm a little closer to it now than I was when I lived in Florida. So
Did you ever regret not going to the Metrodome, or does it matter to you?
Nah, I heard it was a shithole, so it's fine.
Yeah.
A lot of memories, but we get
the newer stadiums are more to see anyway, because they always try to outdo one another.
Yeah, it'll be the most expensive stadium to date. So.
Really?
Yep. Everyone is. Every time they make a new one, it's always the most expensive.
I know when they rebuilt the Yankee Stadium, I was kind of upset, but then going there, I was like, wow, this is so pretty.
I imagine that. Yeah, it's like as you get the feels, but
dude, they got like a wide screen that goes like all the way around the stadium. Shit's crazy. It looks so nice in there, you know.
It pretty much goes from left field to center field. You see the size of that screen, you're thinking, holy cow.
Yeah. Like, screw this game. I'll put a movie on.
Just watch a movie at the baseball stadium. Why not?
Hey, I was watching a movie and a baseball game broke out. How about that?
Yeah.
Oh man.
I think
I was watching the Super Bowl and the concert broke out.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I was talking to a friend of mine at one of my jobs one of the Universal, and he's actually surprised at Red Bryant and Chris Clemens. He kept saying, "Oh, you must be happy." Like, yeah, I am.
Oh, they both signed with Jacksonville. Yeah. Is that what you were fishing for?
So did Ziggy Hood.
Yeah.
So did Ziggy Hood.
Toby Gerhardt.
And Toby Gerhardt, Zane Beadles, Tandon Doss, and re-signed Bavin.
Good.
That was somewhat what my question was going towards, but I was curious to see, just in general, if there were any surprises to you. I didn't expect anyone to say Jacksonville, because I know I'm the only one who actually pays attention to that team, so... But I think it's helpful that they got
it's helpful that they got some new players in there. They needed an influx of talent.
Yeah.
I think that they desperately need a quarterback, but if they go Clowney with that top pick, it's not a bad idea. Getting him at 3 is such a steal. Like, you can still get a quarterback
and then there's still, like an A.J. McCarron or a Derek Carr, is it?
Yeah, Derek Carr could honestly be like a reasonable idea for the Jaguars, and that could be very good. He could be great.
Because I don't know if I could stomach another year with Chad Henne at the helm.
They did re-sign him, but I think it's to be the backup. I think they realize they need a fucking quarterback.
Yeah, and I think if Clowney goes number 1, you got Bridgewater sitting there at number 3 possibly, because the Rams are still invested in Bradford. They're not going to go for him. I know they're not going to take Bortles because Bridgewater is the most NFL ready. That's who, in all honesty, unbiased-wise, I'd rather have is an NFL ready Bridgewater over a not-so-ready Bortles, even though
the upside.
He and I are from the same alum. I'd rather have Bridgewater.
Yeah, that's fair. It'd be nice for him to play in Florida since he's from UCF. He went to UCF, but yeah, I don't see Bortles going to 3 anyway. I think Houston's going to take him 1.
Yeah, I'm actually thinking though, seeing the renovations they're doing at Everbank this season too. Talking about they're doing some work over there and expanding the scoreboards to make them look larger. They're going to go from end to end now. So I definitely want to go check that out.
Yeah, right on. We're going to move on to some NBA talk if you want to stay on the call. It's up to you.
Oh, yeah, I'm staying till the end of the show.
All right, cool. All right.
I never get the chance to come on as often, so.
He's like, you're not getting rid of me.
All right, that's fine. We're undermanned this week anyway, so more power.
Yeah, he tried moving Indiana and he still can't get rid of me.
We got the NBA playoffs will be here soon. About 11 to 12 games left in the regular season, depending on what team you are. Yeah. I know you guys will both be excited. The first point I had to make, the surging Knicks under Phil Jackson may be able to snag the East final playoff spot. They're 8-2 in their last 10 games. They're only 2 games behind the 8th seed currently held by the Atlanta Hawks. What do you guys think the Knicks' chances are of sneaking in and taking that last playoff spot with 11 games left, being 2 games behind? They're surging, though, and Atlanta's struggling, so there's a chance.
Yeah, there's a chance. Carmelo's doing
possible. Good. However, even if you squeeze in, we're going up against the Pacers in round 1, which I know anything's possible, but if you look at that matchup, yeah, it's true, or Miami. It would just be seen as, okay, it's feeding time for the top seeds for round 1. But, I mean, the Knicks have shown lately that they can compete. Like you said, they're surging, they're fighting, and there may be some extra motivation going in the playoffs, especially with all this Melo talk.
Yeah,
you never know what can happen.
You got to love the underdog, too, when you know what I mean, in these situations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you think Phil being there maybe motivated these guys a little bit, lit a fire under their ass? You know, like,
yeah.
It's convenient how Phil Jackson steps in and they're 80% win percentage now, you know? Like,
yeah.
Like, what goes on in the locker room?
Right? Little pep talk.
I think he's going to change the culture for the better. I mean, it took 10 years to recover from Isaiah Thomas's tenure, and Donnie Walsh was there for 1 season. I feel like he should have stayed because he actually brought in, like, Stoudemire, Felton, eventually landed the deal for Melo. I thought he did an excellent job, and his work in Indiana spoke for itself. I wouldn't have minded if he stayed, because God knows James Dolan knows how to ruin a good thing in New York. The Giants and Jets would have had their own stadium in Manhattan had it not been for that idiot.
Mm-hmm.
And I would have wanted to see that, too. They had some really good plans from what I understand.
Yeah,
but instead of becoming a partner, Dolan had to ruin that whole thing. And apparently he is a cancer, according to many people that I've spoken to, particularly back at home, who just can't stand watching the product because he runs it.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe this could be a breath of fresh air. Maybe Dolan will back off a little bit, let Phil do things his way, and could really change the culture in a good way in New York.
I can only hope that Phil Jackson was sent in from Chicago as a spy to convince Carmelo Anthony to leave and sign with the Bulls. Because at this point, with Phil Jackson there, it seems less likely Melo's going to leave, and we could really use him in Chicago with a returning Derrick Rose next year.
Yeah, they're not going to want to get rid of him.
Oh, God.
That'd be such a scary team. No, it's not about the Knicks wanting to get rid of him. It's about, if he's going to re-sign there.
Yeah.
And, I mean, with Phil there, it's a lot more appealing to stay a Knick. Before, he was being a good boy and saying, oh, yeah, I want to be in New York next year. I want to be in New York next year. But how much did we really believe that? Like, why? That's all you ask yourself. You're just like, why do you want to stay there? What reasons do you have, Carmelo?
Isn't that what they all say? Because they're trying to get the attention off him. Isn't that what they all say?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He was thinking about going.
I think he's just trying to get the attention off him, yeah. The ball's in Melo's court at this point. Only he knows what he's going to do, and the rest we can all just speculate until the time comes. Just like we did with LeBron's free agency. We all had speculations, but ultimately the ball is in the player's court. It's their choice. There's
only 3 teams I can see Carmelo playing for next year. The Lakers, the Knicks, or the Bulls. Those are the only 3 teams. He's too much of a he loves the spotlight. He has to play for one of those big cities. He can't play anywhere else.
Yeah.
Tell you what, if Carmelo does go to Chicago, I'm going to the United Center and catching that home opener next year because I'm pretty close now, 3 hours away, dog. Yeah.
Yeah.
He might like the New York City.
You on any Pacer games yet?
No, I haven't. I haven't had. I mean, Indy's still 45 minutes away, so it's a little out of the way to go to a Pacer game. But if they played Chicago,
True.
I'd probably go. But I typically have to work every night that there would be a game. So
I know that feeling now, dude. I have 2 jobs.
yeah, it sucks.
I'm doing it so that I can get money, so we can pay rent, and again, doing what I do now at Universal is a stepping stone to bigger things. But I've got to pay my dues first, you know.
Right on.
Man. Rent's very important.
Absolutely. You don't want to be.
Is.
You don't want to be on the street in a box. We'll make bills for food.
I'm not making my girlfriend pay all the rent either. I'm not putting that burden on her.
Oh no, you never want to do that. That's a good way to get kicked out. As much as they love you, you know, anyone can be held victim to being let go by the ones they love because of financial reasons, which is silly, but it happens.
I don't know about silly.
Yeah,
In a way, it can be. Like that's a whole other thing we can get into another time. That's a way off topic thing, but yeah.
Love Talk Weekly.
Yeah, it's better than Weather Talk Weekly. Well,
that is true. But no, getting back to what you were saying, I think that I agree with those 3 teams. I think those are the only places I'll see him either. I just don't see him going anywhere else, especially if there's already stars at forward position that he would have to compete with. He'd want to have that security of having the starting spot from day one.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I wanted to talk about the Western Conference a little bit. We got into the East. The Heat and the Pacers are the teams that have a chance of winning the 1 seed. There's no way. I think at this juncture, the Spurs are the hands-down favorite to win the NBA title. Here's why. Okay, let's throw some numbers at you. They're 27-8 at home and on the road. That means it does not matter where they play. They can play in San Antonio or in Miami. They do the same thing. They play so home court advantage for any team irrelevant to the San Antonio Spurs. They play just as well on the road as they do at home. That's very scary. They have a 31-10 conference record in the conference that everyone considers hands down superior to the East. The West is so deep and so tough, and the Spurs win 3 times as many games as they lose in their own conference.
Was it a 41-win team in Phoenix might miss the playoffs because of how good the West is?
Yeah, whereas like crap teams like the Knicks, no offense, are still in the playoff picture in the East.
Dude, the Bobcats are in the Bobcats are the
Bobcats will make the playoffs. Yeah. The Spurs.
The Wizards are playing 500 or better.
Mm-hmm. The Spurs allow 97 points per game, which is very good. That's very good defense. But they score 105 points per game. That's only 1 point less than the number 1 scoring team in the West. That means that they are terrific defensively and offensively. They're an older team, but they're a veteran team. They have some young, really good players like Kawhi Leonard, and they're fresh all the time. Popovich sits them the perfect amount. They're on a 14-game winning streak. They are developing such a chemistry, and they are rolling into the playoffs hot. The Spurs are a terrifying team that made the finals last year, and one miracle 3 from Ray Allen is the only reason they didn't win the title last year. So I think that until something happens to prove me wrong, the Spurs are my pick to win the NBA championship this year. And I think Tony Parker in particular is so underrated, and I don't understand why people don't bunch him up in the conversation with the other great players in the league when they talk about like the LeBrons and the Kevin Durants and the Chris Pauls. You see Tony Parker just create magic every single time he's on the floor, and I don't understand why people don't put him in the same conversation because he's so talented.
I don't know either, but I wouldn't bet against the Spurs myself. Those numbers alone, I think people will be putting their money on the Spurs, and that's a team you would not want to face.
Mm-hmm. I think it would be nice to see a young new team like the Clippers instead, but this might be the Spurs. Maybe they know that death is knocking on their door, and they got one more chance at this, before they all turn into dust and retire. So maybe they're real motivated this year to win, so they can go out with a championship. And I think every basketball fan would be happy with that. Okay, good for you. No, get out of here.
You had your fun. Now goodbye. Hang it up.
Get your boring ass brand of basketball out of here. We want to see the Heat and the Thunder run up and down the court. They're finally rid of it, right? Yeah. Duncan, please. You're like 70. What are you doing? Why are you so good?
Yeah. Go back to the Virgin Islands and take up swimming again.
Do you guys have a particularly different pick on who you think might win the championship this year? You think maybe we get the three-peat from Miami? Anybody? Craig?
I don't know if Miami will get past Indiana in the East.
Really?
Yeah. I mean,
have the Pacers fallen off since their dominant start to the season, or have they just gotten better?
Pacers and the Heat are both, the Pacers and the Heat are both kind of struggling recently. They're about 500 in the last 10 games. The Pacers actually lost to the Magic like 2 weeks ago. But I mean, it happens. Whatever. Good teams lose to bad teams all the time.
Yeah.
So.
And I'm sure they're probably just gearing up for the postseason. But as far as the West, easily San Antonio. And come to think of it, I think if they got a rematch with Miami or if they got a showdown with Indiana, I wouldn't be betting against the Spurs myself. So now I really don't have too much of a different view.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Craig?
I mean, you made a...
He thinks the Knicks will sneak in and win the championship. That's what it is.
Oh, absolutely.
All right, got it. You sound like I'm gonna sound when we start talking about the tournament, man.
Yeah.
That Craig right now about the Knicks is how I'm gonna sound when we start talking about the Sweet 16.
Oh, I cannot wait to get into that one.
Well, we're getting into it now.
Yeah. All right. You're going with the Knicks thing, okay? Knicks,
well, it's my hometown.
Every week.
They took the 16 potential NBA. They took the 16 best records in the NBA and seeded them like an NCAA tournament bracket, and made for some interesting matchups. Like I think Bulls Rockets was one of them as a potential matchup. If it was done that way, or Warriors Grizzlies. There were some really good matchups, but then there were those blowouts like Washington versus Oklahoma City. It was interesting to see.
Drooling on that Bulls Rockets. You know that's my two favorite teams.
Yeah, but they took Atlanta out because of record, and they put Phoenix in instead.
Yeah.
Because they didn't go by the playoff seedings. They went by the sole team's records.
Good.
Some really good matchups.
So that's interesting. Did they say who they think would win at the end of the bracket?
No, they haven't done that part yet. I think it was just to see how it would fare up if they seeded the teams. I tried doing picking them in my head, seeing who I think would win. But some of the matchups like Houston, Chicago, Golden State, Memphis proved to be tough picks. Then you had others like, okay, San Antonio is going to feed off the 16 seed. Oklahoma City is going to destroy Washington. Yeah.
Fair.
As good as the Wizards are getting now, to be up against the Thunder, no.
Never.
Yeah, Thunder are ridiculous.
Yeah, they're pretty damn good. They could fight the Spurs too. It all depends on Russell Westbrook.
I just found it interesting that they took away the seeds in the whole Eastern Conference and Western Conference and just matched up the teams against each other. I think that would be a sight to see down the road.
That would be really cool. I mean, there's a problem when the East is so weak that we have bad teams making the playoffs and teams like Dallas missing in the West. But you got to remember that good teams and good conferences fluctuates. And maybe in 5 years the East is going to be the really good conference and the West is going to suck. So you can't change the rules just for the sake of one conference being bad currently. As much as I would like to not have to see the Bobcats make the playoffs, it's fine. It's just how it is right now. So, but we're gonna get into some NCAA tournament stuff. The Sweet 16 is this week. I'm gonna go ahead and roll through my picks for who I see advancing to the Elite Eight, and then I'll see if you guys want to do the same. I've got Florida, Dayton, Arizona, Baylor, Louisville, Michigan State, and UConn advancing. And my pick to win the tournament is obviously the number one ranked Florida Gators. There is literally no way I see Florida dropping a game to anyone. They were the number one team coming in. They're on a huge winning streak. They've dominated everyone they've played in the tournament. You can't give me a reason why Florida's going to lose. Because there isn't one.
Especially when one of their bigger threats got bounced out by Mercer.
Mm-hmm.
I think, if anything, Duke would have been a threat, but they got bounced in the second round by Mercer.
They're playing UCLA, though, right?
This week they are, yeah.
I don't know, man. UCLA might give them a run for their money.
UCLA will be the first team to challenge Florida, I think. It'll be a tough game.
Right.
Yeah.
Michigan State.
I wouldn't just give it to them.
No. I fear Michigan State a little bit. They're about the only one. But
but if they don't stay healthy.
Right. Florida's just dominated everyone they've played. So I just don't see a reason to pick against the best team when they've come in and just proven why they're the best team. They have one of the best coaches in college. They play stifling defense, which is always what wins championships. They're so talented at all 5 positions. They're always in the tournament for a reason. They're well coached. They're well disciplined, and this year particularly, they are the most talented team in the country. All that Wichita State business is gone now. Finally, Kentucky.
Yeah, I mean, we knew. I think everyone knew that at some point we knew Kentucky was going to be a tough matchup for them, and as close as it was, I think it was obvious Wichita State was not going to go all the way. Great season for them, don't get me wrong. Phenomenal to win that many games in a row. But I'm sure it means nothing to them now, though, because they got bounced in round 3. And the only banner they're going to get that says conference champions and tournament berth, but there won't be a Final Four repeat this year for them.
So what do you guys think of Iowa State versus Connecticut?
I think UConn's actually going to pull the upset
UConn.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, never count out UConn. I mean, the year they won it all, and you called it from the beginning, Chris, everybody was counting them out in the Big East tournament. And they won every game needed, and they did the same in the tournament. Everybody thought Butler was going to dethrone them and win their first title, and UConn dismantled Butler in that championship game.
Yeah, I'm usually right. Yeah.
Yeah, your numbers don't lie. Fantasy football, picks, conference, everything.
Kimba Walker was so good.
Those of you listening, if you get a good luck charm to take with you to Las Vegas to win you some money, the host of the show is the man you want to take.
That's true. And if you want to give me some money to go to Las Vegas, I'll also accept that. Or to at least maybe to spend in Las Vegas.
We'll take a field trip. I'll go. I'll tag along too.
Craig and I are taking donations to go to Las Vegas. If you wanna know how to send us donations, you can call the number. No. Yeah. But anybody have a differing opinion on who they think is gonna win the tournament? If you don't say Florida, you're wrong.
Really.
Just remember that.
Not Florida.
Well, boo on you.
I don't know. I'm actually UCLA might beat them, man. I'm kind of confident.
Well, I mean, the first round upsets that we saw prove that anything can happen.
Yeah.
It's like Vin Diesel said in The Fast and the Furious. Doesn't matter if you win by an inch or a mile. Winning is winning, and the final score is what's going to matter.
If
Dayton beat Ohio State by only 1 point, but Dayton still advanced. Ohio State went home. So anything can happen, and you never know. It's hard to pick against Florida, is without a doubt, but you never say never.
If UCLA beats Florida, I'm calling in 6 Saturday.
We will understand completely. You will have the pardon.
So,
the sickest I think I'd ever seen you, Chris, for a loss. I think the sickest one that ever hit you, even though they went on to win the national title that year.
Oh, okay.
The Ole Miss game in football.
Yeah? Oh, I definitely thought you were going to talk about the time the Vikings lost to the Saints in the NFC Championship game. And I slammed the door in your house. I almost killed 4 people that night. Yeah.
I got drunk and drove home.
Yeah, he woke my mom up, slammed the door, and he almost killed. I think Neil was one of them.
I went outside. I saw some Saints fans running around. I said, "Who dat?" outside. I pulled a gun on them. Yeah. Then I
thought Neil and Robbie were the first, because Neil, of course, had to wear that Green Bay Favre jersey just to try and mock you. I thought you would wring his neck when Hartley kicked that field goal. But that
was the sickest I've ever felt.
I take that back. The second worst was Florida Ole Miss. The Viking Saints game was definitely the worst, because I forgot about how badly you took that one, especially considering the hosing in overtime with the fucking phantom calls.
Oh, my God.
Even I thought it was bad, and I'm usually neutral.
The worst the worst feeling I've ever had as a sports fan was when Garrett Hartley kicked that field goal. The second worst feeling was when Derrick Rose's knee collapsed on him against the Sixers. That was.
I didn't get to actually see that reaction.
Pretty bad.
So the second one was the Ole Miss loss.
Well, the Vikings fan one was just a mixture of just depression and anger after, like, what we're at 16 years now of me being a Vikings fan, and just finally 2009, just finally we're got a chance to go play in the Super Bowl, and like this is amazing, and like we're just dominating the Saints in everything but turnovers, and the Saints win that game, and it's just like a terrible way to go out, but that was bad. And then like the Bulls one with Rose getting hurt, I'm sitting there watching the game, like we're gonna win the game. Why is he even in the game? I have this like bad feeling. He goes down. The announcers are talking about it. He's down for way too long. I'm sitting there with my hands on my face, just like no, please let him be okay. Like, no. I'm just like, I can't move. And then in the morning, I'm like watching ESPN, and it says he tore his ACL. I just like broke a bunch of shit. I was so mad. Like, terrible. I really feel like we could have competed with the Heat that year. It's just
word of advice, Craig. If you ever watch sports with Chris, it might be best to get yourself a riot shield to protect yourself from flying objects.
I think in the last 5 minutes I talked about almost killing someone over a football game and breaking a bunch of things off a basketball game. So I'm clearly an angry person.
It makes for entertaining radio, though. Come on.
Yeah. Dude, I'm a New York Giants fan. You don't think I break shit?
Yeah.
I got a pile of televisions in my backyard.
Damn you, Eli! You won a Super Bowl and you still
do you have them labeled too? Like,
yeah.
Do you even label based on which one you broke it for? Like Deshaun Jackson's punt return labeled at TV.
Yep.
I think Eli Manning is the most frustrating player in the league. Honestly, like 2 Super Bowl championships and almost 30 interceptions in the season twice. Like. What are you doing, Eli?
He's got to frustrate so many Giants fans. I know my family get so angry. It's like, you know what? Why do we have this guy on the team? Yeah, he won 2 Super Bowls, but every other season he seems to throw an infinite amount of picks.
Oh my God! And they're always like, why do we have a pick too? It's not even just like a pick that gets like shut down, or it's always like they're wide open.
If the Giants don't want him, the Vikings will take him. So.
I'm sure they will.
Well, I think we covered everything we wanted to talk about. It was a good episode. It was nice to have you on, Nick. We're gonna go ahead and do some plugs. You got anything you want to plug, Nick?
Just once again, thanks for having me on. I try to come on when I can. Keep on listening, guys. It's a great show. It's going to get even better with the week. Hopefully we get more people on again, and don't be afraid to call in and voice your opinions, whether you agree with us or not. Let's hear what you guys have to say out there in the listening world.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. I will talk to you guys the next time I get a chance to come on.
You have a good night.
Take care.
You too.
You too.
All right, man. Peace.
All right. Craig, you want to go ahead and plug all your stuff you got to plug?
Yeah, man. I'll plug my Twitter because I'm not getting too much love on there. So Craig Kells at Twitter, and I guess I'll plug Fanboys Anonymous. So fanboysanonymous.com is a great website for everything geek. If you guys into movies, video games. They even got reviews for books and all kinds of cool shit, comic books. Great community over there. Definitely check that website out. fanboysanonymous.com.
Good guy, Craig. All right, yeah. Follow Craig on Twitter. I'm going to after this show. All right. So you can like us on Facebook at facebook.com/sportstalkweekly. You can follow us on Twitter, twitter.com/sporttalkweekly. Follow us on Stitcher Radio, iTunes, YouTube. You can watch the archive version of this whenever it comes up. That'll all be on the Sports Talk Weekly Facebook page. We're going to be back on the Saturday night schedule, actually, this Saturday. This is the last week's episode, so this Saturday will be the one for this week. So we'll be back on Saturday with whatever comes out between Wednesday and Saturday to talk about. I'm sure there'll be more stuff to talk about. We'll have a lot of stuff. And if there isn't, we have some like little special things where it's getting, it's almost April, so I'm going to start talking about fantasy football way too soon here soon.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
You got that going on. I'm sure Josh will love that. I get way too into it. Like, I'm into fantasy football like 4 months earlier than everybody else. I'm like looking at the combine reports. That's how you win every year, guys. I'm telling you. So
yeah, man, definitely helped me with my fantasy game. I'm into like 3 leagues a year, so.
The best thing you can do is stay in one league and just like focus on that league. Honestly, you'll do the best that way. Also, check out arollofthedice.net for Pokemon TCG strategy articles. I'll have an article up on Tuesday. So if you're into that, check that out. I know a lot of people who I'm friends with on Facebook follow that, so check that out as well. Thanks for tuning into the show again this week, guys. You know, it was nice having it was nice to have a little change of pace on Tuesdays. It's nice that we still got the support from you guys. Still support us on Saturdays. We'll be going back there. And so much better night for the show. Please keep, putting it out there and sharing with your friends. Tell everybody you know. If you like sports, follow the page. To call into the show. We love hearing your calls. If you're too shy to call in, just listen. Whatever works. We appreciate any kind of support you want to give us. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll have you on Saturday. All right. Have a good night.
Hey, Dace Tacular Nation, it is I, Chris, the Dace Man Dace, host of the Dace Man Show, checking in with you guys to let you know of a new podcast debuting April 13th called For Real Movie Club here on Mega Powers Radio. Join me for the month of April as I moderate a panel of 4 movie buffs as we discuss Mel Brooks films. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, that's April 13th. Tune your radios to Mega Powers Radio, and ladies and gentlemen, it's showtime.